And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, guys. I hope you guys have been having a good week as usual. It is a Sunday for me. Hopefully, it's a Sunday for y'all, depending on when this video drops. But anyway, we need to cover some more of this Christopher Gregor case. Now, we have a detective here, and he's going to basically talk about his experience when he got a call that a 6-year-old boy was deceased at the hospital. So, you get that type of a call, you're a detective, it's about time to go there and pretty much start the case up. Before this, there were some officers who actually did some wellness checks on the boy, and as per usual, I always say the system is full of shit, and they're not able. I don't know what they need to do, but they're just not able to identify abuse when it's actually happening right in front of them. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and check out what this detective had to say, his findings in the whole situation, and just further clarifies what his father Gregor was doing. Let's go ahead and check this thing out.
Detective Sergeant Matthew Scutty, SCU. Yes. Thank you, Detective Sergeant. Ms. Crum.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. What do you work for?
The Ocean County Sheriff's Office with the Crime Scene Investigation Unit.
And in what capacity do you work for them?
I am a sergeant so I'm a supervisor for the unit.
Every professional that they bring up onto the stand, every expert, quote unquote professional, they're going to go through their history and they're going to go through what makes them credible. So the first 3 minutes of this is just them making the man credible, proving to us, the jury, if we were a jury, that you can trust this man.
In cases of death investigations, we would be the ones that manipulate and photograph the body with the medical examiner's office. But we basically run our own investigation that runs parallel with everyone else in terms of we are more of the physical type of the investigation as opposed to the interviews and interrogation part of an investigation.
And how does the crime scene unit become involved in an investigation typically?
We are notified by the initial responding agency, so either the town would call us, and then in some circumstances, we'll get called directly by the prosecutor's office to respond to an investigation.
Did you become involved in the investigation into the death of Corey Michelo?
Yes.
And do you know when you became involved?
On April 2nd, 2021, approximately 6 p.m., we received a call for a death of a 6-year-old down at Southern Ocean Medical Center in Ocean County, Stafford Township.
After receiving that notification, what did you do?
Immediately dispatched 2 of my detectives to the hospital to gather information and also document the condition of the body at that time.
Now, as a sergeant in the crime scene unit, is your role different than that of a detective?
So my job is to basically coordinate the investigation, the investigative efforts, coordinate information that's coming from other sources such as the prosecutor's office or the local police department, and relay that to my officers, and then also whatever my detectives are finding, I'm mainly the filter, relaying it back to them, on top of placing them where they need to be, reviewing search warrants with them, and going over the scenes with them in total.
So you said you sent detectives to Southern Ocean Medical Center?
Yes.
Okay, when did you do that?
Approximately 6 o'clock, they were dispatched down there to go down.
Do you recall who you sent there?
Yes, Detective Tyler Walsh and Detective Joseph Chester.
And at that point, what, if anything, did you do?
At that point, I started making contact with the other agencies, such as the prosecutor's office and Broadening Township Police Department, as well as keeping in touch with my detectives who were in touch with the medical examiner's office at that time.
You know what's crazy is this thing happened in 2021. That's crazy how much time it takes. And I know it's the government and its resources, and you have to allocate things, and you have to, but it's like, damn, bro, what's that, 3 years, 2.5 years? I feel like that's too long for something as clear cut as this. You know what I'm saying? We got the video evidence. We got all of this. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe that's just how the world works, but I feel like every trial that's pretty big. Brian Koberger, was that going on 3 years? Sarah Boone, she's like going on 5 years. This case, 3 years. It just takes so long, and I feel like that's why I don't know what to do to fix it, but I'm just saying the justice system is so clogged up and so bad. It's like if you go in there for a crime, bro, and you're innocent, you're real fucked because you don't know how long you're going to be in there.
Did you do anything else after that you described?
I then went down there and met up with the investigative team at that point.
Okay, where did you meet them?
900 Barnegat Boulevard in Barnegat Township.
Do you know about what time you went there?
Roughly around 10:30 that night we were there.
On April 2nd?
On April 2nd.
Okay, and why did you go there?
That was what we were described as the last place where Corey was. That was his father's residence. So that was where we were going back to do a search of the residence to look for what possibly could give us information as to what happened.
And when you got there, who was there?
There was Detective Joseph Mitchell, Detective Purcell from the Barnegat Township Police Department, and as well as officers from the Barnegat Township Police Department who were securing the scene.
Okay.
And we're going to go live with his police dash cam arrest probably tomorrow. But from that point, I think Christopher already knew he was fucked. And even when you go into the police dash cam and you see him talking to the police, I don't know, you could kind of tell when people are guilty. They kind of revert to that juvenile, hands on their head, kind of circle around, kind of confused, don't know what's going on. They revert to this childlike almost form of lying. And you'll see it very apparently when we play that video tomorrow. I don't know how you could decide to be so abusive and think, right, that nobody's gonna notice. Same thing like Shonda Van Der Ark, abusive, beating the kid, starving the kid. How do you expect no one to notice? Especially in his case, he's co-parenting with his then wife or girlfriend. How is she not gonna notice that? You know, you're beating the shit out of him, falling on treadmills, biting his head, but nobody's gonna notice? Come on now. I feel like people like this are stupid, bro. Honestly, people like this are kind of not the brightest in the world, because at least if you're gonna do something that evil, you're not gonna do it in plain sight. He's doing this in plain sight. But anyway.
What do you mean by they were securing the scene?
So once we figured out where we need to go in any investigation, we try to keep it as pristine as we can from the condition that it was in. So what we do is we send either the local town will already be there, or we'll send an officer there, and basically that officer secures the scene, not allowing anyone in or out until we've done a search of the residence.
So there wouldn't have been anybody walking around inside prior to your arrival?
No.
What was anyone or anything in the residence when police arrived?
When police arrived and when they made entry, there was a dog inside the residence that was secured by the Barnegat Township Animal Control.
From the outside of the
Look at his
residence,
face.
did you make any
You
observations?
see that face? You see how he pursed his lip and he was like, poor dog. What a piece of shit, bro. Look at it. Look at the, oh my God, bro. This is the first time I've seen a criminal actually try to like look sad about what he did, even though everything proves that he enjoyed doing this shit. Or at the very least, it gave him a rush. Now he's over here with a pout face when he brings up the dog. It's like, bro, shut your face, bro.
Residence that was secured by the Barnegat Township Animal Control.
Look at him. Purses his lips. Oh, how sad. They took my dog.
From outside of the residence, did you
Fucking
make any
dumbass.
observations?
The only observations was it was a apartment complex, consisted of many, many buildings, 2-story apartment complexes with the tan siding, and there really wasn't much notable concern outside.
Was there a apartment number affixed to the exterior?
Yes,
And did you go inside?
yes.
What happened when you went inside?
When we go inside, we do an initial, first the responding Broadening Township police officers do initial clearing for safety, to make sure that there's no one inside hiding or anyone else injured inside the residence. Then at that point, we begin our search process. The scene then gets turned over to us once it's made safe, and we document everything that we see through photographs and reports.
Did you make any observations of the residence once you were inside?
Just that it was a standard apartment. It was second story, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, a family room. but nothing really jumped out at us at that moment.
Other than visual observations, did you make any other observations with any of your other senses?
Yes, there was a smell emanating from what we kind of narrowed down to the child's bedroom of the lingering odor of either cleaned up or dried vomit.
And how were you able?
Damn, as a detective, how the fuck do you know what that smells like? That shit is terrible. Imagine the smell profile this guy has in his brain, bro. You know what I'm saying? Imagine all the horrifying shit he's seen and smelled. And it's probably like PTSD. You smell the smell of dried vomit, and it's like you immediately think of all the 4 cases that that you've seen in the past 3 years with dried vomit. You know what I mean? This is why I feel like I can't be a police officer, bro, because these guys go through it. I mean, how do you know that's vomit? I guess you could know. I guess as a parent, you know what vomit smells like. So there's another avenue of knowing what it smells like. But I'm sure this guy has a list like, oh, this is what dried feces smell like. This is what vomit. This is what blood smells like. This is what dried blood smells like. That's too much for me, bro. And these guys are walking around in society trying to be normal. Ain't nothing normal about this job. That's why I'm always say they need some therapy, especially detectives, beat cops. It needs to be like, remember when you would go to school and you had to do your book report, or you couldn't graduate, or you had to do your book report by the end of the week, or else you couldn't, you would get a bad grade. These guys need to have mandatory counseling. I don't know how many hours per week, but they need to have it per week, have it signed by a counselor, and have it passed into the department. And I don't see how this is not a thing. Like the people would be making money. The department would probably lose money, but you would have healthier police officers mentally.
To narrow it down to that location within the apartment.
The smell was stronger coming from there. We didn't see anything, but we were able to smell it.
So you didn't find any vomit?
No.
What else did you do when you were in the apartment that night?
We did a quick initial search of the residence. We didn't want to go through it with a fine-tooth comb just yet because we had an autopsy scheduled for 9 a.m. the next morning. So in this case, because we didn't have much information as to why we had a deceased 6-year-old, we decided as the investigative team that it'd be better to do a quick cursory search of the apartment and then secure it for the night and go back the next day.
What did the cursory search consist of?
We're basically looking for anything that may jump out at us at that point, and also looking in areas to see if there's something we can find that may lead us to what happened. So with the apartment being pretty minimally furnished and having minimal items inside of it, it was a rather quick search, but we were able to look inside the top layer of the garbage can as well as the family room and the bedrooms.
While you were there, did you seize any evidence?
That night, phones were taken, as well as a paper that was from Hackensack Meridian Hospital for Corey Mitchell.
And did you take any pictures?
Yes.
Now, were you actually the one taking the pictures, or did you assign someone to take the pictures?
No, Detective Chester, who was at the hospital, was with me, and he was assigned to do photographs.
And were you with him while he did that?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes, certainly.
Sergeant Scutty, I'm approaching you with what's been marked for identification as S67. Put them down here for you. S68. 69. 74, which is already in evidence. 73 and 74. Could you do me a favor and take a look at the exhibits I just gave you and tell me if you recognize them?
His face irritates me every time I see it, bro. Every time. It just never fails to irritate. Like, what is that? Are you angry? Are you sad?
Yes.
Are you frustrated?
Are those the photographs that you were referring to that were taken in your presence?
Like, what is that face? It's like, this is a very slappable face. I've been saying, like, some people have slappable faces, bro. Holy shit. If there's not a face you want to slap more than his, I don't know who it is, because Anyways, let me continue.
On the evening of April 2nd, 2021.
Yes.
And do those photographs accurately depict how the apartment appeared when you were in it on that evening?
Yes.
Could you briefly, and also use the exhibit number, tell me what each picture is?
So S67 is the approach to the family room coming up the steps from the front door entrance. S68 is the family room facing back towards the area where we had just entered the apartment.
Okay, so basically, Mr. Detective goes ahead and describes what he's seeing. And this is how they admit evidence. I guess they need it on the record, but now they're going to show us in person. So they're going to throw it up on the big screen, and we're going to see exactly what he was describing. Let's go ahead and check out this. Let's check this house out, folks. Let's see. Put in the comments if you think this guy was a clean guy or a slob. I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out.
You can see what you were looking at. Can you please describe for the jury what we see, and if at any point in time you feel like you need to get closer to point, I'll ask the court if you may do that, okay?
So S67 is, because it was a second floor apartment, there was a staircase that was two parts. And this is the second part of the staircase from the landing heading towards the family room of the apartment.
Next exhibit. S68, could you please tell us what is seen here?
So S68 is the family room, and the way we take our pictures is we open.
All right, so he's got the PlayStation 4, very typical male. He's got the little coffee table from IKEA, the $20 coffee table, typical male. I mean, it's looking pretty. All right, so he doesn't seem like a psychopathic slob. He just seems like a psychopath. The house actually looks pretty perfect.
Always show where we're going to where we came from. So this is now showing back towards that staircase. You can see in the background by the door. And also it shows the location of the kitchen as well.
And when you were inside of this area of the apartment, could you tell me what, if anything, you observed?
It was furnished with a couch, end table, along with a coffee table. There were some cups on the coffee table as well that looked like they had been drank out of during the day. And then the kitchen over to the right-hand side was just your standard apartment kitchen.
Next exhibit, please. S69, could you tell us what we see here?
So S69 is now moving towards the kitchen. That shows the transition between the family room and the kitchen. The pictures are made to show for relation, as well as that depicts the garbage can that is in the kitchen against the wall.
Is there anything on the ground depicted in the photograph from your recollection of being in the apartment that night?
Gray pair of sweatpants, it looks like.
Next photograph. Could you tell us what is depicted in S70?
So this is the family room headed towards the back of the apartment, showing the location of where the other rooms would be in the house. Residence.
The next photograph, please. S71, could you describe S71?
So S71 was the bed in the rear bedroom, which was the child's bedroom. This is showing the bed in the condition that we found it.
Now, as a social worker, you wouldn't think anything is wrong here. The kid has a shitload of toys. He has his bed sheets on. The room looks clean. And this is why you actually have to dig deeper, folks. But parents, like the good ones, the ones that are good at it, they're not going to openly show you that they're abusing their kids, bro. But I don't know. People hate CPS and some people admire CPS. But I feel like they just don't do enough, bro. Like the second the officer walked in, he had the smell. He smelled the smell of vomit coming from the room. Okay, what do you think CPS smelled when they came in here? Who knows? But they still were able to, say, "Oh no, he's good. He's protecting his child. It's fine and dandy." So I don't know. I just think something needs to change to make this process more foolproof, because there's so many cases where the police come, CPS comes, and they're like, "Oh, everything's fine." It's like, why did we even call you? 100 complaints by the mother, but you still feel like everything is fine.
This was not searched or altered before we were in there. And it shows the pillow and blankets on top, as well as the magazine rack and the end table next to the bed.
Is this exactly how that room appeared when police responded to the apartment?
Upon our entry, that is how the bed is.
And is this the room that you described the stronger smell of vomit coming from?
Yes.
Next photograph, please. S72, could you describe to us what is seen here?
S72 is the garbage can with a white plastic bag on top of it, in the kitchen.
S73.
It's the same garbage can we took the top layer off, which was the white garbage bag, and it shows the garbage that's inside of the garbage can.
Did you disturb anything in that garbage can aside from removing the top layer, that white plastic bag?
No, that was all we did that evening.
Okay. And from being in the apartment that night, what, if anything, did you observe in that de-layered garbage can?
We could see a McDonald's bag, and as well as some other garbage that looked like some stationery items and various garbage items, including cleaning wipes. But other than that, we didn't really dig too much into the garbage that night.
Next photograph, please. S80, could you describe what that is, please?
That is the garbage can in the child's bedroom, which is empty.
Next photograph, please.
So this was the paperwork on the kitchen counter, which was the Hackensack Meridian My Health Chart for Corey Mitchell.
And how many pages was that?
1 page.
Next photograph, please. Okay. Now, could you please describe what's depicted in S74 and why that's significant to you?
So when we decide to clear the residence for the night, we secure it. And how we do that is we have not only visual contact on it with an officer, we also put a seal on the door for integrity. That seal is signed, timed and dated, as long as photographed, to show that next morning when we return, or whenever we return, that seal is still intact and no one has entered that apartment since we left.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they sealed that thing off. And this is, again, when you do stuff like this to your kids, bro, people are going to find out. We see it happen time and time again. And all of these parents, the common theme, it seems, is that they're surprised. They're like, what? How did they catch me? How are you surprised, bro? You have a human being with a social security number living and existing, and you're going to beat the shit out of them. One of the two things are going to happen. They're going to get old enough to run away, right? We've seen it happen. Look at Ruby, whatever the fuck her name is, the YouTube mom, right? They get old enough to run away, or you accidentally kill them. There's not really much else that happens. You accidentally kill them, they run away, or I should say the third option, the police find you. But at the end of this entire situation, at the end of all of these scenarios, the police still find you. And this is the one thing that parents, abusers, all these people don't seem to realize, bro. We're living in 2024. You're not going to be able to get away with stuff like this. Like, oh yeah, Corey, I haven't had him for a few weeks and his mom hasn't seen him. Who knows? We don't know. He may have ran away. Who knows? You can't do that anymore. Maybe back in the 60s and the 70s, but this shit's out. They're going to find out, bro.
After being at the apartment in Barnegat on the night of April 2nd, what, if any, other involvement did you have in this investigation?
So at that night, we sent another detective up to Englishtown to the mother's residence.
Why did you do that?
For the same reason we went to the father's residence, we still are trying to develop a story on what happened. So We knew that these were the two places that the child would reside, so we then did the same thing which we did there, is we went and searched it.
Do you know where that residence was located?
Englishtown, New Jersey. I don't remember the exact address. If I could have my report.
So you drafted a report with respect to this case?
One of our officers did draft a report.
And do you review those reports as the sergeant?
Yes.
And if I showed you that report, would it refresh your recollection with regard to where that location was?
Yes.
Detective, or Sergeant, I'm sorry, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as S-108. Do you recognize S-108?
Yes.
Okay, what is that?
That is the report authored by Detective Tyler Walsh on reference to the search at 58 Oxford Court, Englishtown, New Jersey.
So I guess it refreshed your recollection about where it was?
Yes.
Okay, that's the report you reviewed?
Yes.
All right, thank you. As a result of reviewing that and assigning the tasks, are you aware of what was done at that residence?
Very similar to what we did. He was allowed into the residence by the mother and the grandmother, Bree Michelow, and her mother. He then searched the entire basement, which is where Bree resided, and did the same thing that we do everywhere else: photograph and search and look for anything that may stand out of the ordinary.
And keep in mind, this lady, his mother, lived with her parents, bro. And she did over 100, complaints to CPS. Lives with her parents. Why not just give the kid to the parents to her, who has another 2 people living in the house? Why not just give the baby to her until they figure this all out? You know, take a chance with the other parents. Since we have 100 misconduct reports for this one, let's roll the dice. Let's give it to her. I don't know. I just feel like something could have happened. It's so ridiculous. You have the parent with grandparents in the same house, but you're going to leave them with the single father. That doesn't even sound right to me. Unless they're all crackheads. The mom's a crackhead, the grandma's a crackhead, grandpa's a crackhead. Then it's like, okay, they're well-documented crackheads. Let's not give it to them. But other than that, bro, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man. 100 complaints. Over 100.
What, if any, other involvement did you have in this investigation?
We wrapped up after that, and then the next morning, which would be later in the morning after the search at Englishtown, the autopsy was conducted at 9 a.m. on Saturday the 3rd.
April 3rd?
April 3rd.
Okay. And did you go to that?
Yes.
And when you went, where was that located?
Community Medical Center in Toms River.
And when you got there, was anybody else there, or did you go with anyone else?
There were 2 detectives from my unit, Detective Daniel Lesnikowski and Detective Ralph Laudicina, as well as Detective Purcell from Barnegat Township Police Department, Detective Dennis Mitchell, Detective Joe Mitchell, Sergeant John Carroll, and Lieutenant Brian Haggerty of the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office.
Now, while you were there, what was your understanding of what your role was?
So our role in the autopsy is we basically work hand in hand with the medical examiner, which was who does the autopsy, and we do all the photographs and collection of any evidence from that autopsy.
Were photographs taken?
Yes.
Okay. Who took the photographs?
Detective Lesnikowski.
And were you in his presence while he was taking them?
Yes.
Right. And who directed him to take the photographs that he took?
We have a set of standard photographs we take on every autopsy, then everything else after that is done at the direction of the medical examiner, pathologist conducting the examination.
And folks, that's pretty much it for sports, man. It's just a very telling interrogation, I would say, or interview. One thing I'll say, I expected to see a bunch of red flags all over the place. Gregor looked like a pretty put together guy, not gonna lie. And I think he kind of prided himself off of that. That's why his ex said, oh, he wouldn't go around with me. He's too trashy, or I'm too trashy for him. Like, he really considered himself that guy, better than, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really know what triggered him to be so violent to his son. Probably just anger issues. That's the best thing I could assume, is just anger issues. But I don't know how you could get that way with your 6-year-old, bro. I can see if they're your 17-year-old, your 16-year-old, and they test you and shit gets real. But this is a 6-year-old. But anyways, people, I just wanted to bring that to you. This was the detective who ran the whole interrogation. or the whole investigation. And we're also going to go to a bunch of other detectives and see what they had to say, the things they saw as the case continued forward. And it's going to be an interesting one. But until the next one, folks, I love y'all. Show up for the live tomorrow if you're interested. I'm going to see you guys there. Stay inside, stay safe. I'm out of here.